The question for today, the big question for today is, why do you hate money? This is kind of a funny story. If you check this out, these ClickFunnels sends us things like these socks. And on the socks, it says, why do you hate money? And at first, when I saw those socks, I just was like, I don't really understand what they're trying to say here. Why do you hate money? Isn't that kind of like a weird capitalist thing? And then I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I said, you know what? This actually makes a lot of sense to me, because a lot of people, a lot of business owners sabotage their own success as though they actually hated to make money, right? So I started to make a list. And I made a list of things that I do on a weekly basis that I've asked all of my clients to do also, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna play a little game here, and I'm going to tell you about an activity that I do each week that allows me to be successful. And then you're gonna look to see if you have taken action on the things that I've talked to you about. And if you haven't, then you get points deducted, right? So let's say you're gonna get 10% or 10 points deducted out of 100. So let's pretend, I'm just gonna use a fictitious number of $100,000. So let's just say that I generate $100,000 in income a year. So if you do not do one of these things, you automatically get penalized $10,000 or 10%, okay? So let's have fun. Let's have fun with this game a little bit, and it'll give you a really good idea of where you stand, right? This is a little bit of a look in the mirror to see what you're doing well, and it will also tell you what you are not doing so well at that you need to improve with, okay? So number one, each week, I publish my face-off, right? And my goal is to build my list. What do I mean by publish my face-off? Well, publish my face-off means that I post something daily to Facebook or Instagram or podcast or YouTube channel or Facebook Live. I'm constantly publishing something because in my business, I'm the attractive character in my business. And I am trying to build a culture or a tribe. So in order to reach out to the people, for people to hear my voice, to attract the kind of people or the number of people that I want, I have to publish my face off to build my list, okay? Now, what does a list allow you to do? Well, the list allows you to own your own traffic, right? Facebook, for example, could shut you off at any time. So if you're completely reliant on Facebook to get new business from, you're going to be in a lot of trouble because they own that traffic. They own that channel, right? But if you build your list, you now own that traffic, and you can continue to nurture that relationship. So question is, do you publish your face off daily? Are you posting valuable content either on Facebook, Instagram, Facebook Live? Do you have a blog? Do you have a podcast? Do you have, do you post daily to YouTube? Do you do those things? Okay, so if the answer is no, then you deduct 10% from the $100,000. So now you're down to $90,000. So I'm still gonna make $100,000 and you're gonna make $90,000 because you're missing something that I do, all right? Number two, do you do a live event weekly? Okay, it could be a physical live event where you're physically there, or it could be a weekly online event. It could be a webinar, it could be a Facebook Live, but something where you are promoting yourself and you are selling the benefits of your product or service that you have to sell, and you are religious about doing it every single week. Okay, so for example, I usually do a webinar every single Thursday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm promoting it. Thursday, I hold it. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I am following up. Okay, so question, do you do a live event, either online or physical, every single week religiously? If not, then you have to deduct 10% or another $10,000 off of your income. So I'm still at 100,000, and if you haven't done those first two things, now you're down to 80,000. All right. Next thing is funnel, not a website. Websites are dead, guys, a long time ago. Now, what I have in place instead is a funnel. Now, some of us get confused as far as what that is, but basically what we have is we have a domain name or a URL. Now, my domain name, which would technically be like my website, would be billstorm.com. Well, billstorm.com can point to anything. It can point to a regular website, or it can point to a funnel, right? It can do either one of those things. But I'm not interested in having a website where people just come and browse, right? I'm interested in having them come to my funnel where I can present what I have to offer in such a way that I get to educate, motivate, and inspire them to take action to eventually become a customer, okay? So I say it like this. It's kind of like this. If I go to the store and I'm looking for something to buy something for my wife and nobody helps me, that's a website. They come in, you look around, nobody really helps you, so you leave and you look for something else, okay? Then the funnel is different. I go in to look for something for my wife, and somebody who's a professional comes up and helps me and he says, "Hey sir, what are you looking for?" And I say, "Hey, I'm looking for something for my wife." And then they lead me through some options and some experiences to help me find what it is that I want. Okay, that's the difference between a funnel and a website. So if you are just using a website and you don't understand the difference, and so you're not using a funnel the same way I am, okay, you get to deduct 10 points, okay, or 10% or another $10,000. Now, I want to drive this point home, okay? I don't have a static website for my business, right? And yet I make more income than somebody who has a website. So why is that? How is that possible? Is the website the answer, or is it the things that I do in my process to attract people to me and then the presentation that I give that matters? Okay, that's a big question. But if you're not doing that, I'm still at $100,000 and now you are down to $30,000, or now you're down to $70,000. Next one, I study 30 minutes a day to sharpen the saw, right? Whatever I am doing, right, for my business, I intend to master it because my life and the life of my family depends on it. I can't afford to be sort of kind of good or to dabble in something. I have to provide for my family. So each and every day I sharpen the saw, right? I make sure that I am learning and finding out something that's going to help me do better the next day. That's what we call CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. So if you're doing that religiously, not just once in a while, but religiously every single day, then you get to keep your 10% or your $10,000. And if you're not, and you have to be honest with yourself, if you're not, you lose another $10,000. So now you're down to $60,000. I'm still at $100,000. Next one, email nurture to build value and trust. Well, if you haven't done step number 1 and publish your face off, you probably don't have an email list, okay? When you have an email list, this allows you to nurture the relationship. You should be constantly sending people that were interested in what you had to say or what you had to offer in the first place, something that is going to support the value of what you do, right? And we want to be a welcome guest, not an annoying pest. So we're not constantly just bombing them with offers, but what we're doing is we are sending really valuable content so they learn and grow to trust you. Statistically, we know that it takes about 8 to 12 touches before somebody will actually buy from us. So expecting that somebody's going to buy from us on the first shot is just completely unrealistic and just doesn't make any sense. So are you on a daily basis nurturing your email list? Are you sending valuable content, or once they enter your email list, do they just kind of stay there in the abyss? Okay, so if you are doing that, you get to keep your 10,000. If not, you lose it. And now you're down to 50,000. Next one, I focus on fishing with a net, not a pole. It takes a long time to build a business if you're just throwing one line in the water waiting to catch one fish. It's much easier to fish with a net where you catch a bunch of people at once. So what does that mean? That means that I am constantly promoting the opportunity for a lot of people to see what I'm doing, right? So here's an example. If people are interested in what I have to say and I put them into a group, for example, like a Facebook group, I now have a captive audience, right? I have all the fish in one pond, and now it's much easier for me to catch them because they're not all over the place. I know where the fish are, right? And then I can educate, motivate, and inspire those people in order to take action. And I don't have to talk to them one by one necessarily, but I can put the same message out to a group, which makes me much more efficient. So if you're doing that and you've created something like that, great, you're doing awesome. If not, you lose another 10%. Next one is an ad spend that matches your income goal. Okay. There are far too many business owners who simply don't understand the percentages of what it takes, right? They're expecting too much from the dollars that they spend. And I understand why, right? They either have a limited budget or they're just really fearful, so they don't spend it. But that's just saying that you're basically ignorant to statistically what the numbers are. That can be fixed really fast. You have to understand what the numbers are. And of course, I can teach you that. But right now, if you are not spending enough money to match your income goal, let me just give you an example. If you want to make $1 million a year and you're only spending $1,000 on ads a month, you are never, ever going to hit $1 million a year because you just aren't in front of enough people to match that income goal. Maybe if your income goal is to make $100,000 a year, now you would be much more in the ball game of what it would take. So people just have very unrealistic expectations. So if your ad spend doesn't match your income goal, you'll lose another $10,000, all right? The next thing is knowing that investing the time to set up your funnel so that your cost to acquire a customer is zero, okay? If you don't understand that concept, if you don't understand how to spend $1,000 and get $1,000 back before they even become your customer, this is a huge opportunity for you to wake up and say, oh, I really don't understand that. I need to understand how to do that, right? Because if you spend $1,000 and you get $1,000 back, you spend $10,000, you get $10,000 back, you spend $100,000, you get $100,000 back. That's why somebody like Russell Brunson can generate the kind of income that he makes. I've looked at his numbers. His closing percentages aren't any better than mine. The difference is he has a much larger ad spend. He's got a much larger base to work off of, and it's because he's put in the time and effort. He's a few chapters ahead of me on how on putting that together. But that's the key. You have to learn this secret. So if you haven't listened to my training on how to create an unlimited ad spend because you've just been kind of absent, well, then you lose another 10%, right? You lose another $10,000. So now you're down from $100,000. Now you're down to now you're down to $10,000 in income per year. And the last one is where you completely go broke, okay? Where you get you lose all 10 points, all 10%, all $100,000. I show up every single week religiously for my coaching sessions, to my coaches, right? And to the Q&As, to ask the questions that I need to ask and to get the training that I need to get live. So if you religiously show up to my training sessions every single week, you get to keep your 10%, you get to keep your $10,000. If not, you lose another $10,000. So now here's the time to where you have to look in the mirror. You have to go back and look at your score and see where you're at. So if you're expecting to achieve the kind of income and results that you want and you're not getting it, maybe it's not because of something out there that's the issue. What the issue is something that's between your own two ears. You just haven't figured out that these are the key activities. The improvement needs to happen within yourself, not somewhere out there, not an ad, not a technology, but in yourself and in your daily habits to grow the kind of business that you want. A gentleman named Mr. C, we'll call him, okay? Mr. C once said, part-time effort gets you part-time results, full-time effort gets you full-time results. And that's such an easy thing when you really think about it. If you're only putting in work part-time, you really can't expect to get a full-time income if you're only working a part-time job. So right now, this is decision time for you, right? If you really want to be successful, okay, and you decide that you really want to be successful and you want to generate the kind of income that I generate and get the same kind of results that I get, then your decision right now needs to be that you are going to commit to doing the same things. You're going to model and do the same things that I do in order to achieve that same result.